Hey, welcome everybody to Off the Grid, episode 7 here on Now You Know. We've got the regular bunch of gang hoodlums here in the studio. We've got Rob, Steven, myself, Zach, Jeff, Rich, and Jesse. All right, so let's jump to it, guys, because he might not stay awake, right? You're just
I'll be fine.
Right?
I can do this.
You're good?
I can do this.
I'm one step removed from Elon here because Steven just met Elon the past couple weeks, right? You were just at some cool event.
Yes.
You suck. You know, you get to go hang out with Elon.
From a distance. It's not I get to shoot the breeze, but
it's one thing to have a drink with the guy. It's another thing to be at a corporate event. I mean, let's position things.
It's not that level yet.
Still,
it will be.
It still sounds sexy to me to be at a corporate event. Is Elon pinging you right now?
Yeah.
Tell Elon to wait. Sorry. All right. So I guess one of our first stories here. It's been bugging me. We've been getting this sent in from lots of our viewers. It's this Swedish report on EV batteries being carbon intensive to make. And everyone's like, oh, see, turns out your EV's not so good for the environment after all. So I tried to read the report. First of all, it's in Swedish. That slowed me down.
Google Translate didn't do it for you?
Right. Didn't get that far. I did the Google Translate, but then it turns out I wasn't actually looking at the report. I was looking at just a short synopsis of it. And when I tried to find the report, I couldn't find it. It's basically a metadata analysis of a bunch of different, data that they tried to squeeze together into a report. So it's not, I don't know.
It's not based off of actual data.
So this stuff makes
data based off of data based off of data.
This stuff makes the rounds all the time, and it's the challenge with those analyses is there was lots of assumptions, and you can assume either way. You can assume like somebody who likes oil, or you can assume like somebody who likes batteries, or maybe you'll find a middle ground. But in either case, there's just too many assumptions in a lot of those articles to really say, yeah, that's the truth. It makes a nice headline though.
People, I mean, it got picked up by Breitbart and a bunch of other, alt-right sites right away to just say, like, this is why your Ford 150 is awesome.
The best part on the other end of that scale that I saw in an article was this idea that lithium is so hard to get and it damages the environment.
Lithium mining, oh my goodness.
So lithium floats on top of the water. So you literally just go to this area where lithium exists and they skim it off the top of the water. It's the simplest stuff to get. So whatever. Believe what you want.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I wish that we had better reports or data so that we could show how intensive it is to make these batteries. It seems like just looking at the rough numbers, it couldn't possibly take as much energy as they say it takes to make these batteries. And
we also have recycling and upcycling, and there's other pieces of the stream to be considered.
Right, you can take apart the battery and get almost all of its components back out again when you're done with it.
And another thing that those of us who tear into cars are learning is that a lot of times we throw away packs that have 80% good battery cells. So you don't even have to do anything except take the garbage that someone stuck in the dump, remove the cells and go, this is bad, these 7 are good, let's go and use them.
Right. Yeah, I was watching on Yehu, or Garcia's YouTube channel, that there's a company out in San Diego that takes old cell phones and anything that has a battery or piece of parts to it, and they basically, with economies of scale, if they collect enough of these things, can take them apart and use all those components again. And you're right, they can take those batteries and recharge them and repurpose them. So.
Yeah, that was the guy with the BMW. So his company, the way he made hhis money was disassembling at the component level. So it's not batteries, it's chips, and he's recertifying electronics. At the component level.
Right, he was saying that an 8 megapixel camera that you just toss aside now because it's no good for your phone, you can repurpose that in your doorbell, your electronic doorbell, because that's perfectly good for that. So
upcycling, recycling.
Reports like these are kind of tough because what they also don't factor in is the fact that once you produce a gasoline-consuming car, it needs gasoline for the rest of its natural life.
Right. That's a good point.
And oil, et cetera, and lots of maintenance. Brake pads. Every year or so, and also, for an electric vehicle, it's just once. You don't need more lithium.
Right.
You get the car once as it is, and then over time, the car eventually, pays for itself because it's only manufactured once, and it also could be powered by, alternative energy, solar, wind, and you could have a car that's completely off the grid. So whereas a petrol car or ICE car, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, when you go through the comments on one of these stories, they get into the weeds on some finer point. They got kind of lost the bigger picture, which you just pointed out, which is that we're talking about just one component of the car, which is the battery, but we need to compare an entire EV to an entire ICE car and the entire life of those two cars, and no one ever seems to do that. They just pick apart one.
There have been articles, but again, it's usually on one end or the other. It's less scientific and more either we like oil or we like electric, and so you don't get a good
True
scientific
unbiased
view.
report, yeah.
Scientific. I'm all about science. I'm happy to have the discussion. Let's talk in terms with assumptions that are reasonable in scientific terms.
Yeah, it's hard to find a non-biased article.
It
It's
is.
super hard to do that.
Yeah.
Well, somewhere somebody's going to have a nice car and an EV, buy and branding the same year, and go 10 years, and let's figure out the cost analysis of that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Are you volunteering?
Yeah. No, so I'm on both EVs.
Biased.
There you go. Guess you're not going to work out for the unbiased approach. So talking about this subject, the former Hummer factory in Indiana has just is going to become an electric car factory soon. I don't know if you guys picked up on this.
I was looking for jobs there. They need a sysadmin. I might move.
Don't leave us.
But Indiana.
This guy.
This will be for SF Motors, a Chinese company owned by SOCON. And they're going to start making electric powertrains, electric vehicles. They're going to put about $30 million into the factory and start pumping out electric cars.
They should make electric Hummers.
Electric Hummers.
Don't retool like any of the other stuff. Just make electric
That'd be
Hummers, and then
scary.
just don't tell anybody.
Oh, just put a big sound generator on it, like
Sure.
and a fog machine, and
Right.
Well, the Hummer
And a
brand.
big muffler in the back.
This is a Chinese company, I believe, and I think the Hummer
brand,
brand was
yeah.
sold to a Chinese
It was.
company.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
But
was.
I don't think there's a relationship here. They're just
Yeah.
both Chinese companies.
They gotta
they
team up,
Right,
make
yeah.
some electric Hummers.
Like, hey, you're a Chinese company. I'm a Chinese company. Hey, let's. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be a small electric car.
So we're seeing, right, trucks are now coming out. So the idea of having a truck with a 150 to 200 mile range that you can use 100% EV has some traction, and we'll see what happens with those two. There's two different companies that came out with or announced production trucks in the next year or so.
Yeah, but the ultimate utility vehicle right there. Jesse's right.
Look,
yeah.
brand and function are separate things. Yes, I understand the brand.
So the Chevy Bolt, someone just figured out that the battery pack costs $15,734.
No, that was the announced price.
Right.
So if you wanted to buy one from Chevy,
Oh, I see. If you want to just replace your battery pack,
It's
it's
just a-
$15,000, which is $262 a kilowatt hour.
Right.
And that compares. How does that compare to a Tesla battery? I think that's way more expensive.
Does anyone know? Has anyone ever actually been able to purchase a Tesla battery for their car?
No, absolutely not. If you purchase one, I know they require you to have a core, so you have to return one. To purchase one.
But so has
Oh, you
anybody
do?
out of warranty purchased a battery that we know what that price is? No one's.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't
people have
think-
upgraded.
Yeah.
You know, from a 40 to a 60, etc., but never.
That's all, yeah,
purchase
so-
outright. Right.
Yeah, so because I just got into the out of warranty space, and I'm waiting. Like, when is my drivetrain and battery warranty going to run out? When am I going to have that to deal with that issue?
Or don't buy it from them.
Right.
Interesting. So you have to turn in your old battery.
Correct.
And then I assume they
Part of the
recycle
recycling
it.
program.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
I was actually thinking about it with the MCU as well, because my MCU has got the bubbles, and I'm like, I'm out of warranty now. So if I buy a replacement MCU, are they going to make me give in my other one?
Talk
very
about
well
bubbles
might.
for a second. So it's
So the early cars had a separation problem on the screen where bubbles introduced to the two screens, and on the main MCU, because it's so big and the edge is narrow, you actually can see them on the screen.
does
so
it affect your?
No, it still works fine. It's just cosmetic.
Right.
But you know, I have a part. The part number on MCU I think is a B. So I have a second generation MCU.
Right.
And I was just thinking about that the other day. Like, if I wanted to swap it, would they ask? Maybe
You
there'd be a
got an
discount.
extra one lying around.
Well, actually, I think I probably have maybe 3 or 4. But actually, you know what's interesting?
Secret squirrel.
TalkToRich.com.
I did bring some stuff for you to look at today, so we can talk about that later.
Yeah, after.
So some random parts, but yeah, that's a tough one because Tesla likes to have possession of their stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's IP. There's software in there that's IP.
Correct.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing because I think I read through that, and the dollars per kilowatt hour for Tesla was $190.
No, even less.
It was less.
They
But again, it's an
speculate.
estimated, yeah.
Yeah, like 140 in that range. And it's
No.
like 260 to 140.
So, but this is a retail price versus a cost price. So $15,000 for their battery pack, $16,000 versus, well, we don't have a price for like a 60 kilowatt battery pack.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
It does start to get to that price point though that, okay, it's half the cost of the Bolt roughly.
And
So
imagine if they build it out more, you know.
Right, as
The
right,
cost
they get the
savings.
economy of scales down to,
Right.
which I think they're shooting for under 100 in the near future, right?
Yep.
Per kilowatt hour.
Teslas.
Yeah, Teslas.
Right. That's I read that article, and one of the GM engineers, or maybe one of the VPs, just threw major shade at Tesla. They said that, well, in our Volts, we have never had, in the entire history of the Volt, we've never had to replace a single volt battery due to failure. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I see they're throwing a little shade at Tesla there. I understand that. However, when you think about it, a volt battery is this big. A volt battery, I think it's T-shaped. It's not very big, and it's not the primary source of the car's propulsion either. It still has an engine.
Yeah, it's apples and
so
oranges.
how much is that battery being used? So that's a false argument. That's a false argument. They try to just kind of slip in there to be
but
slick,
everyone, look, throw mud. It's what people do.
Right.
It's fun.
So someone recently hacked into the AP of the car, the autopilot of the car, and we were able to start seeing some screenshots of like what the car is seeing when you're driving, which I thought was pretty cool. I've now begun thinking more like the computer as I drive, like, when the little blue lines disappear,
Right.
or it makes it tells you like put your hands on the wheel. I think it's because it's been looking at a road that it's not so happy with, right? And it's like, oh, I'm not sure what's going on. Please put your hands on the wheel.
Right.
Really just cool to start thinking about all the program that goes into making autopilot work. Because for the average consumer, we don't think about any of that. But like every millisecond that it's on the road, it's just doing a bazillions of calculations to keep you safe. And that just is mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
We've also got to see some of the screenshots of basically, I guess now, starting very recently, Tesla is actually grabbing all of that camera data, right? As opposed to up until now, it's been getting just largely...
it hasn't been actually getting any images. So it's not getting all of your camera data. It's taking little, like, 60-second snapshots of certain frame rates and certain cameras.
Because field collection of the data requires more bandwidth than that cell phone modem can provide. So there's no good way to get the data off.
Right. So they're just getting packets.
And only when there's certain key events that happen, right?
Well, so the idea here is you want real world data to make the software better. You can't do it over the cell phone, and they're not going to have customers bring their car in to dump data off of the computer. So how do you do it? This is an attempt to get real world data that they can use then back in the simulation and back in the software development to make this software better. So it's basically least effort.
I can't even fathom where you begin because there is so much data. I mean, there are so many cars. Normally you send out your fleet of 12 cars and you have
and you get the raw data. Yes.
Here you're just every day just getting data. You don't even know what it is. And like you have to somehow, like you said, like figure out like what are we looking at here? How can we use this? So how does Tesla even go about doing that?
The majority of what they're doing is synthesizing log data. So they send code out to the car does stuff, and it has responses. Like I saw X, I ran this subset of code, I did Y, and they can bring that data back because that's just log data. So they can see, the iterations 3 out of this avoid curb algorithm responded badly 40% of the time. So they can gather code response data, but understanding why the code responded that way, that's where this video data becomes critical.
Oh, I see. So the human can actually look and see like what was actually going on.
Yeah, right. So there's a translation, right? I wrote the code to look for X. It saw Y and did Z. And without the video data, that analysis is hard, which is why you need the raw video data. But again, there's no good way to do it. So the clips is probably an attempt to determine why code is behaving a certain way.
Interesting. Okay, let's go here to Daimler. They own Freightliner, right, which is a big semi-truck company, and they recently, they threw a little shade at Elon as well. They said, in trucks, of course, Elon Musk's stepping into it, but we don't see him as someone who is threatening us because you need a whole infrastructure. You need dealerships, you need infrastructure, you need maintenance. So they're kind of like...
sounds
you little Tesla.
Deja vu moment here. I think is what they should be seeing. Because they said the same thing about the Model S, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a fad, whatever. It's just a fad or whatever." And then,
that'll never.
Model S sweeps in, takes over the market.
Well, what they want to point out is that you can't charge a semi-truck at any of the Tesla superchargers at the moment. You can't do maintenance at any of the maintenance centers. You can't buy them at any of the service centers because at the Tesla stores because they're too small.
Yeah, right now.
So that's that's their argument.
There were like 20 superchargers that went online this week in the world. So to say that like there's no infrastructure is like I don't know.
I was also wondering, could you use an existing supercharger as long as there was a bay big enough for a truck? And just because most trucks don't need to supercharge in 30 minutes, they can take 8 hours or 10 hours because the driver has to go to sleep.
Right.
Could you just put a regular supercharger with a longer parking spot and let semis charge there?
Total. Yeah.
You possibly could, yeah.
Or they just find one that's empty, just pull right alongside it, and just plug in all of them
Oh, that's
for like
Separate
4
battery
minutes, and then they're out of there.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea.
Excuse me, can I park here for just 4 minutes?
Take longer to plug it in.
I would think if the Tesla truck is coming and it's going to be used to cross the country, that the supercharging infrastructure will be different. It's not going to be the same.
The truck stops will have their own.
Yeah,
They're already.
I think it's
they
going to
already
be
have
the
their
underground
places.
one
Yeah.
with the coolant. I think that it's going to have to be,
Well, and it's a different cycle. Like your dad was saying, right? It's so they park, they have to get off the road, they have to sleep.
Right.
You don't need to pump 500 kilowatts into that charging system. You just trickle charge or whatever it is that's appropriate.
Well, now they don't have to stop because there's no fatigue. They can just hang out.
They could just hang out there.
It's all gonna change.
They have to mine the car for 12 hours and they have to take an 8-hour break.
It's all good.
But they got to start building that infrastructure soon, because if they're going to start selling those like next year, nobody's going to buy them if there's no infrastructure.
That's gonna go.
right?
Yeah, but you know how that is. They make it so it will.
I had my car before there were superchargers, not a problem.
And
it was a year of waiting.
That's an interesting point you bring up, because I think what sparked that whole debate was that one of Daimler's guys went to Tesla.
Right.
So that was the response, like, oh, we shouldn't be worried. But then again, that guy has all the information that things that went on at Freightliner / Daimler, and now that's part of Tesla's information storage now. So it's like, okay, they kind of should be worried.
Right. And also, I mean, Daimler seems to be taking the approach of short-range trucks, right? Like inner-city trucks, because they're like, oh, those charging structure is going to take too long, blah, blah, blah. And
They want fleet trucks that can leave a depot, go do a run, come back to the depot and charge while they reload them. And this exists now. It's in Europe, and there's a little bit in the U.S., but city delivery trucks, like in the U.K., where you have congestion charges and all that. So electric in the city, you only need 100 miles worth of range, because it's,
Right.
And so, I mean, do you think that Tesla is going to go for that market as well? I mean, because you could use a semi to do that.
They'll start with the most environmentally impactful market.
Oh.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hence why there's no motorcycle yet.
yeah.
It's so funny because Elon is thinking, he's not thinking bottom line. He's thinking big picture for the planet's good. I mean, and we as humans never think that way.
We would have the
always think-
consumer truck available now
Right.
if that were the case. But that's why the semi's coming out first. Because, I mean, the consumer truck market's huge, but not nearly as big as how much is going on with semis.
And it's also the whole top-down thing, right, that Tesla's always done. If you look at all the other electric vehicles, where do you start? Do you start at the people that can spend money up here, or do you start with the, it's just a hobby project? So if you're a truck driver and you're an independent truck driver and you can afford to buy, or you finance for your company, a $250,000, $500,000 truck, I mean, these trucks are really expensive. Right.
Good old Peterbilt,
Yeah, it's the top end of the market. A sleeper truck is an expensive vehicle. So, start at the top end of the market.
Those cabs are great.
I have a friend who does
these
it.
are
It's
going to be
amazing.
sleeper trucks.
They're going to be hangout trucks.
Different kind of sleeper.
That kind of sleeper. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Exactly.
So the expression you need to remember
Racing
is
consumer trucks on.
50-mile-an-hour rolling burnout. That's what you need to remember.
So also with these trucks, I think that they have a really good cycle going on here, because a lot of the consumer-based, Freightliners or Peterbilts, when I see those at the side of the road, there's another huge truck coming to actually swap parts in the engine, kind of fix it, tinker with it. And if
It's
that
fix
doesn't
it
work,
before you tow it.
Right. If that doesn't work, there's the biggest tow truck I've ever seen in my life coming to haul that thing away. You've seen those before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now with the modularity of the Model S, now you could replace an entire Model S motor 45 minutes to an hour.
problem.
Wow.
If you have the right tools.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that's what's going to be powered by. They'll be powered by, obviously larger versions of the Model S or the P85D or Model X motors, they're the same. Large versions of that would be easily swappable. You could have a person say, hey, you know what, one of your motors is making the grinding noise. I don't think it's going to make it another, 400 miles. I'm going to come by in a Tesla repair vehicle, swap it out the side of the road, and it'll keep going.
and I mean, they could make it pretty modular, I'm assuming. I mean,
There's nothing stopping them from taking the performance motor. It's 400 horsepower.
Yeah.
You could put
didn't we hear that
you could put 2 or 3 of those in the rear drive unit of an like it's all it really could be literally the existing parts.
Didn't we hear that? That I think he let it slip.
Model
Elon
3
let it
motors.
slip that the Model 3 motors are in that semi truck.
So what So what's the normal horsepower output of a cross-country dual axle like Peterbilt? Or like how many horsepower are we talking?
You're probably looking at maybe 600 or 700 horsepower, but it's the torque that gets you.
Yeah,
you probably
absolutely.
have close to 1,500 to 1,800 foot-pounds
Right,
of
the sort of
torque.
motor to wheel.
Right,
yeah.
and then Tesla has no problem making torque.
Yeah,
Right, so that shouldn't be a problem at
so
all.
that's the thing, is that if you take the difference in drivetrain efficiencies and do the math, the existing motors in the cars right now apply to that application fine.
Wow, that's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
'Cause
The
you just-
truck's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh my god.
And economies of scale. It's all about taking what you have, not doing a lot of crazy new stuff, and making something out of it.
And I love the fact that they just didn't have in-house designers. They talked to the trucking industry. And said,
Yeah.
what do you need?
Right.
What is it going to look like? What functions
Know
does
your
it have to
audience.
have?
Yeah, seriously.
Beautiful.
Wow. All right, let's jump to solar here. We just got a little glimpse at the solar roof. I know that you probably know it inside and out, but it appears from the UL certifications that each tile will have 2 little solar cells in it, and that each one will have 6 watt maximum, so 12 watts per tile. So that's kind of cool just to know. And we've heard from Elon that the average roof won't get 100% of the tiles that will have solar cells in them. It'll probably be closer to 40 to 70% depending on your roof. And then we got kind of a breakdown of how you'd install it. And so Jesse and I were looking at this today, and it looks like a fairly simple, you'd have a plywood deck. You would put some kind of, they call it a Georgia Pacific Gypsum LLC Dens deck on top of that, a roof board on top of that. And then you would put, your normal tar paper or
Ice and water shield.
ice and water shield on that. And then what kind of threw us off is that you're going to put 1x2 wood battens on the deck. I guess you're going to go, Jesse's thinking that you're going to go up and down vertically. And then I assume from there is how you attach these
The
roof shingles.
cross connections, I think.
Right, I mean, there's going to have to be some kind of rail system, I'd assume.
And that's for cooling, essentially.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, to
Most
let
important
airflow
thing.
behind
well,
it?
that's one of the biggest things that people keep taking the dig on.
Convection?
What's that?
No, but because it'll heat up the air and then it'll start to go up the
I'm
roof.
not supposed to say too much.
I'm saying
I know you are. But yeah, no. Essentially, that's
Interesting.
the important thing, because that's why there's still spacing in our current. Like, we have the lowest mount system as is. It's 3 inches off technically from the solar cell to the roof. And the biggest problem where people were saying like, oh no, you need to have 7-8 inches of elevation for the
for
cooling
cooling.
of it.
Oh.
It's like the solar cell is in a fire hazard, and so that was the way that we can get around that and still have it be flush to the roof, or at least appear flush to the roof. It's
Gotcha.
obviously.
There's no active cooling,
No.
so I've seen
No, it's-
other people take panels and do liquid active cooling
Right.
to heat hot water for the house.
Yes.
but none of the solar cities have active.
No,
Okay.
no, it's not necessary. It gets hot, but it's not like that.
Well, so think about it in a different term. It's energy you could recoup.
Right.
So you could use it for heating water.
Exactly, and as long as it doesn't get to, I mean, a solar cell works better when it's cooler.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's
So-
the other thing.
So
That's the-
could you, as a consumer, could you pay more to run copper tubing behind it, underneath?
So it wouldn't be
like,
part of their
if you
system.
if you absolutely wanted to maximize the efficiency, I mean, just speaking off the grid here, because that's
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Right,
If you
right.
did want to maximize the efficiency, yeah, absolutely, and some sort
And
of
then you
cooling
use it
mechanism
for-
underneath would help substantially.
But I mean, you could just do it for a certain section, just for your hot water.
Right, because the solar cells, if they don't dilate as much, then you get the efficiency.
So then,
You want to have dilation,
but I mean,
not
if
have
I
it
chose a small section of the roof, say
Right.
2 square meters or something.
Okay.
And I said, I want this to be, I want to get my hot water from it. I don't know if that's as much as you need or whatever, but I want to heat or preheat my water using
there's
that.
solar hot water panels for that too.
Yeah.
That's true, but I mean, I'm saying
Yeah.
I want to have this beautiful roof,
Energy, it's all about
but just
using the
run,
energy that's
just
there.
have a quick, sticks out, run a couple.
I mean, I got some panels. We
pop
can
back
we
in.
can play around with this.
Sweet. What I'm saying is, would that would increase the efficiency of those panels? Would that increase the efficiency of the entire system, or are you limited to the lowest?
You'd be limited to the area because I mean they're not. Unless they're running on a string inverter where it's like your weakest. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Okay.
Yep.
Totally
Just same
right.
as
Yeah.
batteries. It's like having a misfunctioning battery in that big pack.
Yeah.
It
Right.
drags the whole thing down.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
good to know. But you could still get
Now you know.
hot water out of it. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Just the idea that you could do so. Solar panels for a long time have been these basic systems, right?
Right.
Here's the panel. Here's the efficiency. Here's its
Right.
best operating temperature. And nobody does anything fancy. Some people have tried adding, thermal takeaway so that you can reduce the temperature to get better efficiency, or to get heat in water that you can use in another application. But that would be a nice evolution to see
No,
a
agreed.
simple modular Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like at this point in time, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, if you would have had adopt an entire cooling system on top of that, what you invested time and energy and money into it, like, will it actually produce that much more?
No,
it's like you're talking like a top tier panel that's like.
We're just here for Geek Factor. We don't care about this.
I'm just saying, like,
Well, I care about that.
I'm just saying for like my
You go from
ideal.
21% efficiency of the entire mod to like 21.8. It's like, and I spent $300 to do so. The panel was $300, so I just doubled the price for 0.8% up. You know, like.
I'm just thinking like tiny house. Like
We can hash this one out. Let's just get some ice packs. You know, we can start there.
oh wait, okay. Quick question.
Yeah.
I just brain habit thought. What if it's a hot day out, really sunny, and you spray all your solar panels with water?
You cool them down. Yes.
Would you get
that?
would you get a little
That
bump?
can't help. But then again, you're talking your water bill. I mean,
That's true. Yeah, I'm just.
Unless you got a good rainwater collection unit and effort. Yes.
Yeah.
And how long?
Sweat equity is a real thing.
So let me make the analogy back to the battery pack. We've all talked battery packs. We've all talked about dumb batteries and smart batteries, BMS systems. It all is about the BMS. There is no BMS for solar systems right now.
Right.
People don't do that. Why? Probably cost and efficiency, and you don't get it back. But could you? Could you have temperature centers? Could you have cooling system? Could you have all those elements? Could you have ways to take panels out that die and are killing the efficiency of the system? You could have all of that. But is it cost effective?
Right. It's the same as, I can get 400 miles on my battery, but I had to drive 25 miles per hour the entire time.
Yes, exactly.
Which was one of our stories, actually, the hyper miling,
Okay.
right?
Oh,
yeah.
They broke a new record this week, right? Last week they went over
525 miles.
Although I was in the desert, I did hear about that.
I mean, I wouldn't have the patience, I don't think, to do that. I think they drove at like 20 miles an
And they
hour.
were on a closed course, so that
They got better. They got
you're
better.
not even changing the.
Is it
I
six-
hope they just popped it in autopilot and just
Yeah,
left it at 25
Yeah,
or something.
No,
Like
they
checkers.
said they drove it, so they got better and better. It was a 16-mile closed course in Belgium, and they got better and better at knowing how to take turns and do things as efficiently as
Oh my
possible.
It's
God.
like watching paint dry. Couldn't do it.
But
Yeah, right.
it does show that most of the inefficiency is in the air, the coefficient of drag on the car. So the
And
faster
I'm sure
you
they
go,
didn't have the AC on.
maybe they didn't.
The AC is not a huge draw. It's actually the load. So driving load, uphill, downhill, accelerate, not accelerate. all
Absolutely,
that's-
but I mean in a Leaf.
yeah.
Right.
In a Leaf, it's
Okay,
yeah.
that's for you. No, you're right. That's true, though.
No, but I've had this discussion with people on Priuses. So the interesting thing about air conditioning systems is because they've been in cars and people with the Prius have been trying to make them efficient for so long, where they got off the belt system and went electric. Cooling in any car application is much more advanced than heating electrically because
Heating's
they've
a
been
hard one.
Yeah, because they've been under development for much longer. Prius went from belt-driven compressor to electric compressor, I don't know, years ago.
So what factor are we talking here? When you heat the car, is it like twice as inefficient as
I don't
cooling?
know the power consumption. I don't know, but just generically speaking, there are better, more efficient electric cooling systems. Like for your house, you can get a wheel around air conditioner that you don't have to put it in the window anymore. That exact same technology is much more efficient because it's been developed more times than a heating system.
Interesting.
Than your little space heater in the house.
People complain about their air conditioners, but it's like if you have electric heating elements in the winter, that will really skyrocket the kilowatt consumption.
Yeah, way more.
Way
More clothes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah, there you go. And then what about for the hot air?
less clothes on.
Yeah, less clothes on, drive a little bit
spritzer.
faster, and the windows down. Yes.
There we go.
And
That's what I figured out. Park in the winter.
So what is this I heard about a coal power plant that can reverse climate change? What? It's been in the news a lot.
Great title.
It's something about you.
It's gonna be fabulous.
It's gonna be so fantastic. You're gonna love it.
Perfect, wonderful, marvelous.
So basically, you take pulverized coal, you burn it, you turn that water into steam, which powers the turbine, which generates your electricity. Got that? Okay. Then you take your pollution control equipment. So you take this giant bag, basically, which is a vacuum cleaner kind of thing. You trap all the particulates of your exhaust gas. You mix it with a limestone slurry, and then you mix that with sulfur dioxide, and you produce gypsum. So I get that. You make sheetrock, right? Awesome. Then your carbon capture system is just you take a 320-foot tall tower, you pack it with a thick metal drenched in amine,
Amines.
amine,
Yeah.
and then your CO2 reacts with water, and your NH2 and you get a biocarbonate. You then pump this into another generator, and then you pump that into the ground. And so you sequestered the carbon.
So you're burying.
Yay! This seems
legit.
The thing,
Right back into the earth. That's what we're
the
doing.
thing they're doing though is that you're pumping CO2 into the earth
it'll never escape.
to extract oil.
Yes. I love this plan.
So I mean, oil is a lot denser than CO2, so it's not like an in-out one-to-one situation.
Oh, you went too far. Just stop it when we pump it into the ground.
Keep going.
They were saying that they could also pump it into aquifers, although of course they don't do that because then you'd be losing money, of course. Just why would you do that? And it seems like this is also losing money, so of course why would you do that?
Right, and it seems like after they actually put it to use, it's not working out the way they thought it would. Like it's not actually when people have actually started to look at the numbers, it's not really as efficient.
It's not
as they
reversing
thought.
climate change.
This kind of
Right.
sounds like
Whole
what happened to
plants.
cars with hybrid drivetrains. We took something that was dirty, made it more complicated to make it environmental, and it didn't work out the way we thought.
It seems like a group
That's a good title.
of people in a room were working really hard to come up with ways to keep coal and fossil fuels in the equation.
and
They
it
just want to
seems like they-
decommission them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
seems like they took the wrong group of people. It seems like they took like some really old guys who've been around coal their whole lives and were like, okay, make it clean. And they're like, all right, well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. Here's what you're going to burn the coal. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take all the stuff. And, and like they didn't, like, they thought inside the box. This is an inside the box
It is
solution.
inside of the box.
It's
Got the
just
black lung pot.
Look, in the end, it all just needs to be science. Either the science says it's right or it's not.
Right.
Move on.
Right, but I mean, but they closed off the possibility of like, or we could close the coal plant and just
They're
put
just
solar
exploring
there,
in the
or-
space that they know. That's
Right.
fine. If it works out to be positive, okay. But show me some science that says it's true, because it doesn't sound like it.
It's too many extra steps.
There's so many steps, and I mean, do they account for the energy use to build the giant tower and
course not.
to create the amines and to do pump the stuff back into the earth?
But
Solar
let's just
fields.
stop the pumping it into the earth. That's our little soundbite. That's all we need to let people know. Like,
I mean, and plus you're pumping CO2 back into the earth, like you don't think it's going to escape again.
So this is just like Yucca Mountain went bad, right? Everyone take a little piece of Yucca Mountain, stick it in your backyard, nothing will go wrong there.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Fair.
all right. So, what do you guys feel about this new adapter? It goes from a J1772 to the Tesla destination charger. It's about $400, and you can actually now buy it online. It's available. So, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What do you guys feel about this? You can't use it on a supercharger. No.
The idea here is basic. We have destination charging. We have people with chargers in their house. I have a charger at my house. People have your basic Tesla adapter. You have a friend who comes over, or you have somebody who visits your business, and they have an electric car that's not a Tesla. So this is a way for them to use that funded resource from Tesla to charge a non-Tesla EV. Again, it's kind of marketing, right? So the whole idea with destination charging is, it will attract Tesla customers to your business. And so we will help you invest in that, because theoretically that's a demographic you want to attract.
Right. And Tesla does pay a lot of that cost.
Yeah, so I've heard they pay for a charger, they'll pay for install, they'll pay for some of the electricity, so there's a different setup. So do we think that Tesla should be investing in charging infrastructure for all EVs? I don't think that's a terrible thing. From a business owner's perspective, I don't know that the guy who drives the Leaf and the guy who drives the Model X are your demographic, but that's a
Yeah, do you
business
want
owner's
Jesse
choice.
pulling up at your restaurant? I don't know.
I'm in trouble.
Or Rob, for that matter, in his e-golf.
Right.
Well, and there are some caveats to this. You can't just like start pumping in 72 amps to your Leaf.
That's right.
You're
There's
gonna
a lot
blow
of
something up.
Right,
A lot of
40 amps
caveats.
is the limit. So
Right.
here's one question I had, which is, you can have a destination charger that's say 24 amps. You can have one that's 72
They
amps.
look exactly the
They look
same.
exactly the
In
same.
fact,
And
they are exactly the same.
they are, except for a
It's
little
just
switch
little
on the
dip
side.
switch.
And I'm sure the person behind the desk at the restaurant is
They're
going to
not
have no clue. So do you plug in and just hope that you
Well,
don't blow
so
your
could you
charger?
Please switch to under 40 amps.
Yeah, you have a screwdriver, I need to flip the dip
Do you have
switches.
Torx?
problem.
Torx 20 millimeter?
No
Torx?
problem.
The normal solution to this on level 2 chargers or portable chargers is that there's a physical switch that will let you fiddle with it, or on a nice car, like on some of the cars like Tesla, you can just go into the controls for the charger on your car and say, please draw less power. Leaf doesn't have that. The e-Golf doesn't have that. So there's no way to tell on most basic 100-mile cars. You can't tell the car cannot reduce the power.
But let me ask you this. Let's say your Leaf or e-Golf, whatever, could only draw, let's say, 32 amps. Am I safe in using this at a 72 amp Tesla destination charger?
I think so, because what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to talk to each other. The car is supposed to say, what do you support? And the charger is supposed to say, I support 72 amps. And the car says, no, just give me 24.
Right, but if there's this caveat, that means that there
must
must be some lying that happens.
So
I mean, it has to say, yes, I am a Tesla. Give me all the juice you can. Like, it must be saying that.
What this is effectively doing is translating between whatever the Tesla protocol is on the chargers, on the EVSE, Tesla EVSE, and J1772. And in the caveat list, it sounds like maybe that negotiation's not happening. So the answer is I don't know without sniffing the data going back and forth or asking him. It sounds like there would be a risk.
These are non-Tesla vehicles, John, right?
Yeah.
So if I had an e-Golf, what does it cost? $400?
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you pay $400 if you're an average driver to be able to go?
So if I'm a 100-mile driver car, this is probably not an appealing product.
Because of the price.
Yeah, just because how often are you going to be near a destination charger or at a friend's house with a charger?
And need to use
Unless you're driving on the road.
What if you're the destination?
Yes. So I would say if I was a business owner or a homeowner,
absolutely.
I would say this is an accessory I would buy for guests.
All right, let's pull up, Brent, if you pull up line 19, which is the moose test for the Model X. Jesse and I were looking at this, and it's really cool. I want...
What?
So,
It's an crash avoidance test.
Yeah. So
it doesn't relate. There's not like
No moose were harmed.
no
in
moose were
making it.
harmed
and
or
make it big
simulated.
if you can.
That's all that matters.
Look at how low the center of gravity is as it's doing this, and it's quite impressive, especially since we'll show the Audi after it.
It's Sparky.
Hey, Sparky.
Yeah, so it's basically a high-speed avoidance maneuver to simulate avoiding a deer or a moose or something. Something
that's why
large you don't want to hit at high speed.
Oh,
Is that
okay,
real
makes
speed there?
Yeah,
That's
that's
70
real
kilometers an hour.
So the thing he has on his dashboard is a race.
Wow.
It's a racing thing that shows speed, and it shows pitch and yaw and some G-force stuff.
It does very well. If you've
Yeah,
seen
look at a
the Jeep Cherokee do this, it failed the test. It actually popped the tire. It was so bad.
Really? Can we find
Yeah.
this?
If you look at any other car that's this
we watch
size
that
and weight,
They rarely do this well. Yeah.
well, so they put outriggers on it so it doesn't flip over. So when you have a big Audi or a big other sport utility, they literally mount outriggers to the car so that if it goes to flip over, the car doesn't flip. Yeah, the body roll in a car with the gas engine.
Now,
is
this
amazing.
is going a little faster, so I don't know how you...
It's going 10 kilometers
Kilometers
faster. It's like 7 miles an hour faster.
So it's just funny to see right after that how top-heavy and front-heavy it is.
Yeah.
It just has a completely different look to it.
Yeah.
Look how wide it has to go.
Well, and the wobble that you see too there.
Yeah.
is-
Yeah, the back end just sort of drifts. It really isn't glued to the ground.
Yeah.
Because you're braking, so all of the weight gets shifted to the front tires. And that's
The engine's moving on the motor mounts. The car is probably front heavy because it's a front motor, rear drive, or all-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive.
Yeah. But even
All
still,
Audis.
it's still front heavy. Still
Brent,
nose
can you
heavy.
search...
fine.
what was the one
Weight
we just looked for?
distribution-wise, it's front heavy.
Jeep Cherokee?
For sure.
Jeep Cherokee popped its tire every time.
Oh my God.
I think it was
That's
the
the
worst.
title?
It was the worst moose test of all time. Yeah, if you go to the moose test Jeep Cherokee.
This is where do they do this?
Ready?
This is Canada. Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah. This is what kind of prompted. Maybe we shouldn't get a Cherokee. No, really?
This is a car that you can buy.
Yeah. Pop its tire every time.
And you would think...
like wrist, like almost flipped
You
over.
gotta understand
every
that-
single-
that-
look at this.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Whoa! It
When
looked like
they-
it almost broke an axle.
So when you build a vehicle that's as complicated as a car, the set of tests.
Holy Jesus.
How
That is something.
scary is that?
The set of tests that you run the car against from a safety perspective are really limited.
He's got a bicycle helmet on.
Yeah, he needs it. Look at
What the?
Needs more than that.
He's a horse level helmet.
This is the first time I had seen kind of head-to-head, and I mean, I know that it feels this way. It feels awesome.
Oh, there it is again.
It feels so nimble. But yeah, that's just...
Oh, it just rips the tire right off.
So this is another whole reason why the cars are safer, because there's going to be those
It's
times...
Oh, pop tire.
It's
Wow.
all the
Tire.
weight distribution, though. I mean, it's all the weight distribution. It makes
Wow,
so
look at
much
that.
sense.
Damn.
They put all the weight on the on that
front,
outer
yeah.
front tire, and it just popped it.
Yeah, driver's side tire. Yeah.
Wow. But see, this is stuff that never seems to get talked about. All right, so let's go to the Ben Sullins Model 3 estimator. Brent, if you could pull up line 20. I want to see when each of us is getting our Model 3. So who here is ordering a Model 3?
Here.
Me? Me! Oh,
Let's see
give me
who's first.
one.
You're the minority here.
Oh, me
All right,
first,
so
please.
so Jesse, let's fill in your key data here. When did you sign up for the car? It was March 31st.
March 31st.
I think
like
we signed
Vegas,
up
just
at
like
9 a.m.
Yeah, we were waiting in line.
What's that?
It's like Vegas. You're like.
Can you do it by time?
It does ask
Or-
for time. I'm assuming it's East Coast time. I don't know if it's West Coast time.
I mean, Ben Sullins said he lives on the West Coast, so maybe it's West Coast time.
West Coast time. Okay, so that would be 6 in the morning.
Yeah. See, am I a current Tesla owner? No.
Oh, sorry.
That just
Ding.
bumped you to the end of the line.
What's the next question?
Which level do I want?
Yeah, what do you want?
Ooh, there's actually different levels.
Yeah,
I want the biggest battery and a
Rear wheel.
both wheels. So
So
a
the
D.
D, 70D.
But not performance. I think I'll.
So non-performance, big. Okay.
And where do you live?
And
East Coast.
Massachusetts.
All right. When
Tell
you
me
get
when.
your car?
Or say California and fly out there and drive back.
I think it.
That'd be a good one
I'd
too.
love to do that.
I think it. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. February 17th.
What, a day before me?
Owning a Tesla gives you nothing because I'm getting burnt.
Wow.
Maybe is it because I'm getting the bigger battery?
Because I'm.
You're spending more.
You get the P?
What are you getting?
I was getting this D70.
What was I getting?
75D?
75D.
What? Why are you getting a day before me?
Well, just
Maybe
Just
a favorite.
All right.
Considering that
All
you're the already owner too.
right.
It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't.
All right, Rich. Let's see what happens here. Because when we get to the tricky question of, are you an owner?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Technically.
All right. So when did you sign up?
I signed up, I think a week after the crazy line started
So
dying
April
down.
7th.
Yeah, April, mid-April maybe.
Okay. And what is the next question? What do you want?
No, what are you a current
Are
Tesla?
you current?
Yes.
Technically.
I am.
But in the
I was
eyes
gonna
of
ask for a
Tesla,
bid.
are you?
Can he say that?
Oh, they don't probably know. Probably.
You want a picture of it? Sure. There you go. That's mine.
All right.
And performance.
Doesn't it matter
Rich
whether,
gets flagged
whether or not
because
you
of
get
this.
emails? Like,
Oh, I do get emails.
you do?
Yeah.
And they say, welcome, owner? Like,
No, they say.
Say, hey, Rich.
Yeah, they say.
Stop
Rich,
messing
please
with
stop.
our cars.
Stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing immediately. April.
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 Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It's because the P's I think they're saying are gonna come later.
Oh, that
That's
maybe
a long
would.
time from now. I was waiting for a wrecked one. Just wait patiently.
Wait till Jesse wrecks his.
I'll call you.
Doing his moves test.
Hey, Rich.
Rich, maybe we could work something out. You can have it on the weekends.
All right, when did you sign up, Jeff?
31st.
Ooh, the day of.
Day of.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The only way.
Did anyone not sign up the day of?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Peanut gallery over here.
Owner, yes.
Yeah.
April, so it's the
A
P.
little before you.
Interesting. Because
So
I did it
performance
before.
was-
Well, I did the
Yeah, because I saw that you were going to be on Valentine's Day.
Yes, because I didn't do the P. I just out of curiosity, I wanted to see.
So the P
You're right,
seems
they're
to,
gonna
if
delay
Ben is right, the P
This
is.
is so you have to understand this is the mass market car, so I think they're trying to please as many people as quickly as possible. So they're going to put out. They're just going to look at the order data being and who's first, like what comes first.
So Rob, you haven't put.
No, I haven't.
He's
No.
just-
So I figured because I'm an owner, if I really want to get in on one, I'll get in. But no, haven't
All right.
decided yet.
All right. Well, that's cool. So head on over to Ben Sullen's site where you can check out his cool estimator. It seems to be the latest data that he's put in there to see when you're going to get your car. which-
Find out when you are going to get yours.
All right. So let's see. I just noticed this story the other day that it was too hot to fly. This was on BBC. It was too hot to fly. Where was this? Was this
Arizona.
I
Phoenix?
got delayed.
Yeah, was it because it was too hot to fly? So why is it? What does heat have to do with taking off an airplane?
Okay, so when
Science.
yeah, science has a lot to do with it mostly.
it's science?
Fashion, not so much.
No?
Turns out, it's because when you heat up air, the molecules get more excited. They move further away from each other, which means that when you're trying to slice a wing through that and get lift out, there's less air around it, so you're getting actually less lift. Which means that for some of the smaller aircraft, they wouldn't generate enough
Those thrust
lift.
together.
Oh, the runway wouldn't be long enough. Like
Well, yeah, they'd have
Yeah,
to
they
get
need
going
longer
so
runways.
fast on the runway, and they just don't have enough thrust to,
It's
to
a design
get going.
thing.
So
The plane is designed to take off at a certain speed, given the amount of lift they expect. If they can't, you're now pushing a safety boundary at one end.
Interesting.
Right.
The kind of analogy to this from a person perspective is it's the difference between hot air is the difference between trying to walk on water or trying to walk on like water that has some goo poured in it that makes it super thick so that you when you
Walking
step on
like
the water,
wet concrete.
yeah. So that it's that when the wing is trying to push or trying to get lift, trying to get up in the air, it's just there's not enough air there, so it has to go faster to get off the ground.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Well, thank you for that science. This was our Science Corner.
Yeah.
Brought to you by.
But the good news is that means that if you're running a Hyperloop and it's that hot out, you're actually being more efficient.
Oh, really? So Hyperloop isn't
sealed.
affected.
Hyperloop is the opposite. You'd have the opposite problem. I mean, of course, it is sealed, yes, but I mean, if the air was thinner, that's a good thing for you. I mean, the air should be thinner because
So as the Earth heats up, Hyperloop is the way to go.
it's more nice.
I thought we were boring tunnels, but we go Hyperloop.
We could do Hyperloop underground,
options.
overground. You know,
Yeah,
you got
it's-
options. The glass Hyperloop, whatever you want.
Ways to do it.
All right, so we did a little story a couple weeks ago where we went to Climate Exchange in Boston. They're a group that are trying to get a carbon pricing law made here in Massachusetts. What is carbon pricing?
Puts a price on how much carbon you're putting into the air, how much pollution you're creating.
So at a true cost, basically, to like gasoline and things like that, right? And then I guess the Massachusetts plan would be you'd put I think they're shooting for a $40 per ton cost on carbon, and then at the end of the year, everyone in Massachusetts would get a check from all that money generated. So it's not a tax because we're getting that money back. It's just putting the true cost,
distribution,
right?
basically.
Putting the true cost on carbon. So Exxon, BP, and Shell have all said recently that they will back this idea. Shocking.
Well, they're gonna do they'll do a tax on carbon, but there's a
catch?
They want.
Is there a catch?
Oh, there's a
no
catch.
What?
They want to remove
wait.
all environmental restrictions,
Oh, it just
all of them.
'Cause we
they
can
want
trust
to
them.
basically just get rid of the EPA. They want to just get
Yeah.
rid of any regulatory.
Yeah, it's a trust us
Things.
mentality.
that part doesn't make the headline though. The headline is that they back the carbon pricing.
Right. But basically at the expense of.
I see. So they're willing to pay
Right.
$40 a ton if they can get rid of all the other expensive regulations.
Right. I think
So
basically.
actually less.
right. I'm
It
sure.
works out better
Yeah.
for
Oh, it does.
They hired a bunch of number crunchers and they said, you know,
This is
It's a better deal.
This looks good.
Figured it out.
And we- yeah.
If you charge it, you
Exactly.
could do a $40 charge, and then it would come out. You'd be ahead.
you know, of course, that's what they figured out.
It's business. It's all about dollars.
Right. So, I mean, obviously they wouldn't be so gung ho about this carbon tax if it weren't benefiting them immensely.
Now,
For
so
sure.
June 20th, I guess we had a big rally here in Massachusetts at the State House, and our own Jeff Manning was there at the State House.
Thank you, Jeff.
He was
the
our
cause.
reporter. So what happened down there at the State House? How'd it go that day?
Well, it was wonderful. I got an email from some people that wanted us to go, and they said make signs. And did it. Okay, so I spent time. This beautiful sign,
Nice.
beautiful sign. It was colorful. Walked in there. Sorry, I can't bring signs in. Great.
Why not?
First Amendment?
Great.
Hold
Yeah,
on a second.
I know.
Did you pull your First Amendment
Freedom
card?
of speech?
Yeah.
Did you-
Card
did
should
you pull
be
your
right
second
ready. So bad.
Take a scroll.
That would work.
Right here.
Excuse me.
Wait, so no signs?
No signs.
And this is in the State House?
This is in the State House.
And what
Strange.
For any event, you cannot bring any
Yeah,
signs
that's
whatsoever.
just to keep people civilized.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can do stickers.
Because, I mean,
That's our way around it.
we did put, well, there's an interesting story for that. So I get in there, you know, go through the metal detector, blah, 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 okay, go in the elevator, okay. And there's a table there, and there's a sign in, and people giving stickers out. So I was like, okay, cool. I couldn't bring my poster, and guess what? Sticker goes here. I'm walking in there, talking to some people. Rather, big guy like me comes over, has a big uniform. He's like, you got to take your sticker off. Well, they have a sticker too.
Right.
They have do you want me to take everybody's sticker off? I can do that. It's like, okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, take the sticker off your forehead and you put it here, we'll be fine. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're getting pretty
It
granular
was,
here.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Do you shave?
I showered. So it was filled, absolutely filled.
Really?
With tons of people. There was Harvard University professors there, MIT, president of the Union for Concerned Scientists were there.
Wow.
Got a selfie with him, and some other politicians were speaking, all on behalf of the carbon tax.
Wow.
Okay? All on behalf of it, support of it.
It's not a tax.
And pricing, and the crowd really had a lot of applause for a lot of people who were speaking.
That's awesome. So what kind of room are we talking about? Are we in?
It's probably 400 to 500 people there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very large.
And who was listening to all this? Were it legislators or?
No, public was filled.
Right, but I mean, like, who are we talking to? Like, who are they talking to? Is
Talking to the people who are voting for this bill or not.
And did they seem responsive? Like, were they?
There's one person who co-wrote the bill, and he was asking some questions of the people who were presenting. Asking some logical questions about, so it's a bad thing if we don't go forward with this. And a lot of people were talking about how we could be the first in the nation to get this ball rolling. There's so many benefits to it. And it was really remarkable to witness.
So what, afterwards, did the group talk about, like, what they think might happen this year? Because I think our legislative session ends at the end of July. Is that?
Yeah, so if this goes through, the earliest to go through would be July of next year, the bill.
Okay.
The earliest. So there were no people speaking, from the public or any other politicians saying it's a bad thing. I don't want it to happen. These are the reasons why it's bad.
And this was a public hearing.
Yeah.
So that would have been the time to do it.
Absolutely.
So there was no negative.
I didn't stay. It was from 1 to 5. I didn't stay for the entire thing, but this was a popular bill, so they got it out first. And so I didn't stay for the entire thing, but I did not see any negative
That's
comments.
awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Democracy in action.
It's really
That's
good.
great.
Yeah. I wish more public speakers from the actual public could have spoken, but it is what it is.
Hey, we let the smart people speak. Awesome. That's great. Well, we'll have to keep our eye on that and see what happens with that. So the South Miami, which is a tiny town, I didn't realize this. South Miami has a population of 12,000 people. It's in Florida, obviously. Their mayor, Philip Stoddard, has claimed that Florida Power and Light is using misleading robocalls to residents to stop a proposed ordinance that would require every new residential home, building, or apartment complex to install solar panels. This would be the first municipality in Florida to pass an ordinance like this. And of course, if this town were to do it, then I assume the power companies are worried that lots of towns would start to do it. So they've started, allegedly, making robocalls to residents to tell them all the bad things that could happen.
To threaten them?
To threaten them. FPL denies the charges. I found this kind of interesting that...
This is all new construction, they said?
Yeah, so this is similar to, you remember like in New York and other cities how they said if you put in parking, you have to put in level 2 chargers. So it's the same kind of thing, is that we're trying to plan for the future and plan for environmental elements by making ordinances in a city. Right. And solar panels would be an interesting way to do it. I think what this ties into is the fact that in other places and other stories, we've seen efforts to eliminate net metering and eliminate ways that solar panels plug into the grid, or consumers are compensated for solar power on the grid. So it wouldn't surprise me, and maybe it's not FP&L, but obviously there are industry elements that have an interest in de-incentivizing all this stuff, right? Net metering and solar, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen plenty of articles.
I just wish that FPL would come right out and make their case publicly.
But it may not be them. This is just like, so it's just like what you were at the State House doing, right? You go to a wonderful public forum like that, and you can see the public showing up in action. What you don't hear is all the stuff that's going on in the background with lobbying or with people that have interests in the energy industry that aren't FP&L and aren't working on behalf of FP&L, but are working on behalf of their interests.
Right.
So there's lots of under the radar stuff that happens that, the only way this stuff gets found out is when news reporters go after it. So robocall's illegal, reporter goes after it, finds out where they're coming from, and it's probably some lobbying or other, organization that has an interest. Just like the net metering stuff was. There were organizations that had interest in getting rid of net metering.
Well, if you know someone that lives in South Miami, give them a real person call and tell them that you want them to put in solar and back this bill, because I think it would be really cool. We should be doing this all over the place. Yeah. So you had a story here, Rob, a couple stories. One is on the Jaguar I-Pace concept. So tell me about this.
So the reason I threw this one on the list, in case people hadn't heard, is that that Jaguar has now made an announcement that you can reserve an electric Jaguar, and it's really still a prototype. So you can go look at pictures of the car, you can look up specs on the car, and you can submit interest, and within 4 hours of me submitting through this form.
Yeah, build date.
No, I got an email from a dealer. So this is the first example I can think of, because the Bolt didn't let you do this, right? Where you have a dealer manufacturer relationship for a non-existent car, and the dealer is now in the middle of, okay, well, we'll let you know when the car comes out, what we know. We'll let you know how much the reservation is. And so I saw it as an interesting exercise in understanding how far manufacturers are going to inform their dealerships before a car becomes reality, and how that works.
That's very rare.
Are they going to do? Is it going to work as well as the Tesla model did? So for me, it's just a curiosity thing. But I've actually seen some posts from people on Facebook. They're like, I like Jaguar, car, the coach works better. So I'm going to cancel my whatever order, and I'm going to get an I-Pace, whatever.
Is that an SUV?
It's a mid-size SUV is basically what it looks like. So.
Yeah, it's there. Wow. So this is expected out in the second half of 2018.
Yeah.
And did you have to put any money down on your?
So there is no system right now. It's basically register your interest. Either I want one or I'm just interested. If you say I want one and fill out the form, you'll get contacted by your local Jaguar dealer like that. It was like 2 hours.
Wow.
And they're like, we don't know anything. We'll make sure we tell you as soon as we know.
All right.
That's good looking. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty
good looking car.
So instead of having the direct Tesla model where they are telling you stuff, you have to get it through some guy.
Yeah, so through a deal. So here's the challenge. It's always been, right, is that when you have the dealer layer, it's impossible to get any information. I can't get information about a gas car that's slated to come out that dealers have an order for, because Honda hasn't shared any information with them. Right. So this to me is just an exercise in understanding how is a brand like Jaguar going to deal with a prototype car we want to sell to enthusiastic customers, and what's that going to look like?
Well, and I wonder what's going to happen when it comes to fruition and there is this I-Pace and you can buy one. How confused because I've been to Nissan dealerships, I've been to BMW dealerships where they're trying to basically not sell you an electric car.
They don't know, or they're not allowed to tell you.
They don't know anything about it.
So
does it have a quick charger?
It can charge quick. It can do it real quick.
So the dichotomy of the people who know and the people who are selling you and servicing the car,
right?
And there's a natural there's a disincentive for them to stay disconnected. So there's an incentive for them to not share. So this is an example where that may change. I don't have high hopes for it, but I figured I'd try.
And you have another story here. This is line 32 there, Brent. This is the recycled E39 BMW 5 Series, and it beats the Tesla Model S P100D in range.
Yeah, so this came out, I guess he showed the car back on April Fool's Day, and people thought it was a joke of some sort. So he and Jay who got together, and they did a video shoot and a run, and they just took a D loaner, 100D. Yeah. And they did up and down, some California circuit they did. And basically what this guy's business is, we were talking about earlier, his business is taking electronics down to the chip level, recycling and certifying them and selling them back to Chinese manufacturers, and basically keeping the ecosystem of electronics moving. And he's made a business off of it, so he owns a Tesla, and he wants to show people what you can do with car parts on recycling terms.
And so he used 18650s as his...
So I think it has a really mixed battery pack. I don't think it's all 18650s. I think it's actually a Franken battery of like a Leaf battery and 18650. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow.
And you got to understand, the guy has one seat in the car and it's all batteries.
Yeah.
Right.
But for $13,000, he bought a solid frame, built the car bits around it, got a bunch of recycled battery parts, tested them out, put it all together, and built a $13,000 5 Series with all batteries that goes roughly 400 miles.
How much roughly did it cost him total?
His input cost was $13,000.
Oh, really?
So you got to understand that most of what went into this car was junk. So he literally got batteries for by the pound, and then had to certify and reuse. And so the same kind of stuff that we've been that we're talking about, right? How do you take these cars and these parts and do interesting things or cost-effective things?
Right.
So yeah, and this is an extreme example, but the fact that you could do this and put this car on the road for $13K was an interesting, technical experience.
Right, that's awesome.
That's cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this week on Off the Grid. We're going to do a little bonus video. I think we might go out and check out Rich's
parts,
one wheel and parts. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for Rich's part.
Please comment.
That's not the child-friendly part.
Yeah, we might break that up into its own show. And definitely check out Rich's YouTube channel because the car guru knows everything there is to know about Teslas and more. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you comment, subscribe, and like, and all that good stuff.
Patreon.
Now you know.
Patreon, definitely.
So if you haven't bought a raffle ticket already, you still have a little bit of time. They're going to do the drawing on July 4th. So remember, go to carbonraffle.org and you can help us put carbon pricing as a law in Massachusetts. We would be the first state in the country to do it, and you could win yourself a Tesla. So head over there right now. It's $250 for a raffle ticket. They've limited it to $2,500, and I think they have a few left. So go do it today.